Here's some tips that I found helpful if you're an addict and you're using like methadone, Suboxone, or you're coming off 30 milligrams of Percocet 3 times a day, or maybe you're on morphine or whatever opiate that you're on a strong dose of, and that you have 30 to 90 days of withdrawal awaiting you if you go from like 3 to 0 or whatever. Here's some tips. Let's say you're getting your own prescription to maintain, and you decide you don't want to take opiates anymore, and your doctor goes, well, we can always go up, and you go, well, I want to go down, I want to taper myself down. And then your doctor goes, well, we don't do tapers here. What happens a lot, doctors don't like tapers because they don't make as much money off of them. Tapers are very painful for the patient but good for the long term. You can get off opiates within 2 weeks, a week. It's like a speed dry. It's usually what the methadone places don't like, but the places that are like spin dry rehabs, they love the taper. They get you in, and within 10 days they have you on 0 with the taper. Now, this is very common, but it's really rough on the addict. There's a lot of people going back with tapers. But if the addict wants a taper and they get through it, within about 2 weeks they should be back to normal. Meanwhile, the methadone clinics or the Suboxone, depending on if you're taking the Suboxone for pain or you're taking it for addiction, or if you're taking it as an opiate blocker because you're afraid you're going to go back to opiates because you're in pain, no matter what you're taking the methadone, like for instance, I had a next door neighbor that was on 5 milligrams of methadone 3 times a day. Then it went up to 10 milligrams of methadone 3 times a day. And he took these methadone pills for pain. They give methadone for pain now. But let's say you get stuck on a high dose or something and you want to take that taper, you want to come off. But your doctors tell you they don't do tapers, they just go down on the dose every 6 months or so. Well, one thing you can do is you can always be ahead of the doctor. For instance, when I went to HKD, if I was going to go down on my medicine or try to go down or something like that, the way I would do it is I would go down by a half and then tell my doctor once when I was sure I was going down a half more. So for instance, if I'm on 2.5 on the bottle, I'm really on 2.25. As soon as I go down the 2 pills, I tell my doctor to bring me down the 2.25. Then when I go down to 1.5 pills, I tell my doctor to bring me down to 1 3/4. Then when I'm down to 1 pill, the doctor has me on 1 1/4. And then when I'm down to a half a pill, the doctor has me on 3/4 of a pill. That way you're already always a quarter ahead of the game. But you also have to consult your doctor. So if you're going back up, you got to make sure your doctor goes back up with you. If you go back down, you got to go back down with you. But if you're always ahead by a half or a quarter and you make a mistake where you get really sick, or if you vomit up a pill or something, because that's a big one too. A lot of these I'm allergic to, a lot of these mixes of opiates get people very sick and they vomit up their medication in the morning. Well, then you're not getting your dose all day. But if you're breaking them up or if you're always ahead of the game, you can remedy that. Another problem I've noticed is that the doctors will forget to write your prescription and you'll have to go 2 days without. Or there'll be a snowstorm and the pharmacies and transportation will close. You'll go on a Wednesday and they'll need a new prescription or some bull like that. So having that little half is a very good thing to have around if you gotta wait. So there's a bunch of good reasons to keep yourself a half ahead of the game. But you also have to dispose of those. You can't keep your medication. That's illegal. You can't keep it just around. So you have to dispose of it properly. What's really difficult, you have to drop it off at a police station or those bins. You got to put it in a bottle and drop it off. It's a pain. Anyways, unless you're just one of these addicts who don't care. There's lots of people who sell their stuff, they give it away. When I was a teenager, I was one of those people who didn't care. But I had no idea what was going on with what. So I learned. I learned from my mistakes. I'm always trying to be a better person. The person I am today is not the same person I was 5 years ago. As my health gets worse, I make sure my brain improves. That is the one thing that works good for me, my brain. Now, translating my brain to use my mouth or arms or legs or do movements, not so much. But thinking, oh, I'm very good at making choices and thinking and seeing how things add together or how things might end up in the future or what mistakes I already see ahead before they happen. Like one thing I'm very good at is preventing crimes from happening in the first place, or lessening the crime I see by stepping in and trying to get people help. And that's only because I'm able to figure out what's going on around me by looking. I just can't explain it to people. I might be able to think it, doesn't mean I can say it. I might be able to know that something will help, doesn't mean I can run across the room and help. My body isn't that great. I think that this is probably a good place to end. I have my doctor group in 1 minute. Another doctor coming in, so pretty good timing.